Hello and welcome everyone to another Ubuntu Community Q&A. With me today is Michael Hall. My name is Daniel Holbach, and we're going to answer all the questions you might have about Ubuntu and whatever other crazy questions you have. If you're watching this through ubuntuonair.com, there's the chat widget below the video feed, where you can just pick your favorite nickname and then join the conversation. If you have questions, just make sure you prefix them with question in capital letters so we can more easily pick them up from all the chatter that's going on as well. One thing Jose wants us to always mention is that you should subscribe to all the Ubuntu on air accounts you can find. So that's on Twitter, on YouTube, and elsewhere. Google Plus as well, just so you find out about new shows, old shows, and whatever's happening all the time.
Right. Every show that we do on Ubuntu On Air gets recorded on YouTube. So you can go to youtube.com/Ubuntu On Air, I think is the URL, and you can go back and rewatch all the old shows, including this one when we're done with it. So if you want to share it around, if there's an interesting answer that you want to share with somebody, you can do that.
Excellent. What have you been up to?
Well, I traveled to the Southeast Linux Fest last weekend, which was loads of fun. It was a good show. We had an Ubuntu booth there all weekend, and we also had an UbuCon on Friday. So for those who don't know what an UbuCon is, it's a kind of mini conference. Sometimes they're standalone. The ones in the US tend to be co-hosted with another conference. So the Southeast Linux Fest organizers gave us a room to use all day Friday. No, it was more than a week ago. My times are all mixed up now. But anyway, we had a room all day the Friday itself to do that, and we had lots of speakers come in, which was nice. We had Rick Spencer, our VP of Ubuntu Engineering here at Canonical, and also Ken Van Dyne, one of our engineers behind Content Hub. Both gave a presentation there at UbuCon. We had Aaron Honeycutt from the Florida Loco team and Ubuntu team give a presentation there. And a guy I hadn't met before named Mauricio, who talked about Arduinos, which was really cool, and actually has got me finally using the Arduino that I bought for my daughter a little while ago. So I posted a video of that on Google Plus a little while ago. We put it together in a little breadboard and had some flashing lights, and it was good fun. It works surprisingly well, and it was easy enough to get started with Ubuntu. There's an Arduino IDE in the archives. You can just apt-get install it, and everything works. So that was cool. We had a great show. Thanks everyone who came out and saw our booth, and thanks especially to Aaron who helped me run the booth. I couldn't have done that without him.
Excellent. Do we know which other UbuCons are happening in the next time?
There's an UbuCon happening in Germany later this year.
Yep, that's in October.
Yep. There will be an UbuCon in Florida in November. I'm going to be working with the organizers of FaucetCon to run that again this year.
Nice. And then there was talk of a UbuCon Europe next year.
Yeah, I think they were talking about doing that in Paris. And there's also UbuCon LA for Latin America happening in Peru this August, I believe.
Maybe I just had the idea, maybe we should invite some of the UbuCon organizers to one of the next Q&As and just have a chat and see how they went about organizing their events.
Yeah, that would be good.
Oh.
And anyone watching this, if you're an organizer, we have an UbuCon global event on loco.ubuntu.com. So if you could please add your events there, it'll help people discover them. We've also added global events for the Wiley release party at the end of this cycle, and the Global Jam, which is coming up about mid-cycle. So any local teams that want to participate in those, now's the time to start thinking about them, especially Global Jam, as that'll be coming up rather soon. We should definitely do a whole Q&A about Global Jam as we get closer to that.
Cool. Do you know if we're talking to the local council about this? Should we invite them to one of the next Q&As?
Yeah, we can have them on. They were the ones who put these global events up on loco.ubuntu.com.
Okay, I'll I'll take a note to send a mail to them later on.
So loco.ubuntu.com is our local team portal. It's got all the information about all the teams that we have that gets automatically pulled in from Launchpad. And then teams can also use it to list information about their in-person events or their online events or their online meetings. If you're not involved in a Loco team, you should be. It's loads of fun. There's great people in all of these. And it's nice to be able to meet up with someone in your area who's an Ubuntu user and enthusiast. So if you haven't done that yet, go to loco.ubuntu.com, find the nearest team to you, and start getting involved with them.
Yeah, and usually these events, no matter if it's a meetup, a release party, or a global jam, we can talk about global jams in a bit as well. You don't need to really organize loads. I still remember one of the first release parties we had here in Berlin was just happening in my living room, and that worked surprisingly well.
Yeah, and we've done global jams in people's living rooms before. Chris Johnston, Nick Skaggs and I went over to his house one global jam and just hacked on the Summit code for a little while. So yeah, there's very little organization. If you don't have a living room or you don't want to open up your living room, there's always coffee shops. Those are easy enough to get everybody to, and just find a table. And if it's a global jam, hack on something. And if it's a release party, just hang out and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, global jams are generally just events where we try to get as many people from our local communities together as possible and basically tell them, have fun, whatever you're doing. Some run bug jams where they work on bug reports, others do packaging jams, write code or do translations or whatever else. We have lots of instructions and ideas for you. Basically, we run these events at least once a cycle.
All right. Well, we've had a few questions come in. Do you want to start answering those?
Yeah.
And while we do that, everybody, please keep asking your questions. Don't wait until there's a lull. Get them in while we're answering the ones that are already there, and that way we can just continue on to yours.
Yeah. It's interesting. The first question is something somebody on Twitter asked as well. Basically, they asked us to invite Jono to talk to us about rebasing Ubuntu on Android. So the question was from Chloe Wolfie Girl. When Ubuntu for phones are based on Android, how long will it be until Ubuntu on the desktop is based on Windows 8?
So Microsoft's become very open source and Linux friendly lately. So maybe Windows 11 will just be a new desktop shell on top of Ubuntu.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the news reports tomorrow.
There'll be an official flavor called Winbuntu.
Using Windicators.
Yeah, using Windicators. Finally, we'll get those Windicators.
But yeah, on the more serious note, how do you feel about Android and Ubuntu and getting the code bases closer to each other and everything else?
I understand where Jono was coming from,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he was, I don't want to say totally wrong, because he was just kind of suggesting it as a talking point, not a serious, hey, this is what you should do. I think it would be very short-sighted to do that. I think we would be giving up on a really good long-term goal for a short-term gain. And I don't think that's ever worked out for anybody before. I mean, there have been plenty of examples given in comments to his suggestion, comparing it to OS2 and BlackBerry and all the others that are, trying to chase compatibility as the way to grow, and it has never worked out. So yeah. I think our vision of, one Ubuntu on all devices, and it actually being proper Ubuntu, not an Android shell that looks like Unity. I think that is the right vision for us, and that's the vision that excites me. an Android shell wouldn't really excite me nearly as much.
Yeah, I feel similarly about it. On the one hand, it's easy to recognize that if you come from an Android phone, you might be missing out on a lot of apps you're used to because they're just not there yet because the ecosystem is still smaller. But on the other hand, I don't think, or it would be very hard to do a really good job of having both Ubuntu apps and Android apps run really well on Ubuntu, and I think it would cost us loads to get to the point. And in the end, I don't think we would do either of the two well.
Right. It's like Wine in a way. Wine was good if there was a Windows app that you absolutely had to run, but it wasn't a way that was going to make Ubuntu better or more accessible.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay, let's see, maybe we're going to get a couple more Android questions.
Right. This one is from MJ. Yes, any news on Ubuntu 15.50? I'm not sure what that is. So the next release is going to be 15.10. What's going to change? Anything exciting for the front-end non-geek user? So for 15.10, we're going to have two releases for the desktop. We're going to have the traditional desktop that we've always had that's still going to be running X11 and Unity 7. And then we're also going to have a snappy desktop, which is going to be running Unity 8 in desktop mode on top of Mir, hopefully with snappy or click packages instead of the traditional deb packages. But they are also working on a way to support legacy apps and packages also. I don't know how far they're going to get on that, but there's at least going to be a snappy desktop image for 15.10 that will be based on those technologies. So for users who are interested in trying that out, that will be available. But for people doing everyday work, it's still going to be Unity 7 and X11. So probably not a lot of change on that second one, but definitely a lot of things changing on the snappy side.
Okay. Nom nom. Does Meizu MX4 have a thermal sensor? No idea, to be honest. I would need to look it up.
I don't know either. You can probably look up a spec sheet for the MX4 and see. All right, next is Chloe Wolfie Girl. She asks, when will Ubuntu on phones have more users than Sailfish and Windows Phone? I have no idea. I don't even know how many users Sailfish and Windows Phone have. And really, I can't say that I care that much. I mean, it would be a good headline when we surpass Windows Phone at least, but as long as we have enough users to sustain our development and to have our hardware manufacturers happy and continue to ship hardware, then that's going to be success for us. Whether that's more or less than Windows Phone doesn't really matter. At least for me. What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like, I don't think it captivates a lot of people to just look at market share figures. Might be the big deal for some, but yeah, I don't think it's a very interesting goal.
Yeah, I mean, we have an advantage over big companies like Microsoft and BlackBerry in that we don't need a lot of market share to be self-sustaining. So our bar for success and the ability to keep going with what we're doing is a lot lower than what they had to reach because they had a lot of expenses and a lot of overhead, and they, shot to be big fast. And when that didn't work out, then everything came tumbling down. Since we're growing slowly and keeping things lightweight, I think that we can reach that success point a lot easier than they did.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, market share and buy-in from other companies, software companies, is obviously important, but um, like, to wait for the day where we get X percent and then X 0.1% on a couple of months later, I don't know if that's what keeps me getting up each morning. I don't think so. Okay. And I shared the link about the MX4 specs on IRC. So if you want to look up which sensors they are, you can find out there. Another question from Chloe Wolfie Girl. Microsoft bought Nokia to keep Nokia shipping Windows phones as they weren't selling too well. What's Canonical's plan if hardware developers get weary of supporting Ubuntu Touch?
I think our plan is to not get them to where they're weary of supporting Ubuntu Touch. And so far, the feedback that we've gotten from BQ has been very positive, both on how well the software is working and how well Canonical is working as a partner with them. So it's important that we keep them happy and we keep phones shipping, because that's what's going to pay for continued development of this.
Yeah, I was super happy to see the Ask Me Anything of, I forget his name, the guy from
Rodrigo.
Rodrigo.
Yes.
Because so many people asked him, like, what has the process been like? Was it hard? Were you happy with Canonical? Were you happy with Ubuntu? And to almost all of these questions, he said, I mean, it was hard. It was basically the first Ubuntu phone we ever shipped, and it was the first Ubuntu phone at all. But he said, with the general feedback and how the process went, he was super happy, and I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah. And we just recently, with OTA 4, we upgraded all of those BQ phones from Utopic to Vivid. So we did a full release upgrade on all of their devices that they shipped with very few problems. There were a few bugs that came through that were resolved or are working on being resolved now. But overall, it was a really smooth upgrade for everybody. And that shows that we can continue supporting devices long term, keeping them up to date on the latest versions of Ubuntu. And that's something that BQ and other OEMs are really interested in, because that's something that was difficult for them with Android.
Yeah, it looks like also the choice of technology. System image, image-based updates, click, all that stuff is working really well, and is what we should be using on the desktop too.
Yeah. So that was a long answer to basically say we're going to keep the hardware companies happy and shipping devices. That's the plan.
Yeah. Okay, another question from Chloe Worthigo. What's the plan for getting into store shelves? When do you think you'll be able to walk into a T-Mobile or EE, etc. phone store and see an Ubuntu phone?
I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
And it's not really something that we ever had on the desktop either. We've got a few stores in various parts of the world, in China and India and I think Mexico. But it's traditionally been either people downloading it and installing it themselves, or it being shipped directly from the manufacturer to the consumer with it pre-installed, like Dell does. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see anytime soon Ubuntu phones on the shelves. I know here in the US, it's very unusual to buy a phone off contract. It's still the norm here that you buy a subsidized phone from the carrier, and so you get what the carrier is offering you. I would love to see that change. I've been on a contractless plan for 2 years now, and it is so much nicer to not have that lock in. So we might see it in some smaller shops. In the US, we need a phone that is actually going to work well here and is FCC certified here. So I'm looking forward to that being announced. Mark has said that should be announced. He said in the next 6 months, and I don't remember how long ago that was. So I'm looking forward to that announcement because I want a new phone.
Yeah. Um, in the end, it's also going to be about conversations which the hardware manufacturers have with carriers and elsewhere, and where they resell devices and so on. And what I found interesting was that in Germany, in at least three big brand electronics shops, you can now get the BQ E4.5, so the first Ubuntu phone which came up. So they're basically reselling, and that's interesting to see that Ubuntu phones are getting into mainstream shops.
Yeah, and I do know, we've got this carrier advisory group where the cellular providers give us advice on what they need and what they want out of our phones, and we talk to them about what our plans are and what that would mean for them. And both Verizon and T-Mobile, big carriers here in the U.S., are on that group. So there's a chance that, if they're interested in what we're doing and like the direction that we're taking, that maybe one of those will put our phones in their store and sell them the way they sell Android and iPhones now. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I'm fairly optimistic. Okay.
All right. Om Nom Nom asks, is it possible to run the terminal in the background on Ubuntu phones? So a little bit of overview. One of the things that we do on the phones to keep battery drain to a minimum is that we only let the focused app keep running. So any app that's in the background has its process suspended. It doesn't get any CPU time. That way, something can't sit there and run and drain the background or drain the battery when you're not using it. One of the drawbacks is, obviously, stuff stops working. So things like the terminal, if you're running a long-running command in there, it'll be suspended. That is the default policy. We've talked about doing an exception for the terminal because that's one of the few apps where there's some obvious reasons why you would want to do that and not a lot of ways to work around it. I've worked around it. I used Michael Zanetti's Ubuntu Tweak, or Tweak Geek, I think it was called, app, which is an unconfined app. You've got to get it from somewhere other than the regular Ubuntu store. But that will actually let you whitelist apps that should keep running in the background. So I've done that to my terminal, and now it'll keep running, which is nice because I use it to SSH into my server that runs IRSSI 24 hours a day. So I can leave that connected and running even when I'm flipping back and forth between other apps. So it's possible, it's just not supported by default.
I was just having a look at what happened on IRC. Looks like others confirmed what we said earlier about shops reselling those phones, and Poppy also had some ideas about how Android on Ubuntu could work, Android apps on Ubuntu, but he agreed that it might be short-sighted as well.
Okay. Yeah, he also corrected us that we currently have 2 devices shipping from BQ, and they've already signed on for a third. And then, of course, we've got the one from Meizu that was on sale to developers in China for a little while, and I don't know if they're on sale generally in Europe now or if that's coming fairly soon now, but sometime soon if they're not already.
Yeah, Meizu Italy said on the 25th, so in 2 days.
Okay. I got to finally play with one. Ken Van Dyne has one, and he brought it to Southeast Linux Fest, and I got to play with it for a little bit. It's a beautiful phone. It's a really nice hardware, and Ubuntu looks great on it. Right, Nom Nom asks, is or are BQ selling Ubuntu phones in Russia? I think they are only selling it to EU countries right now.
Yeah, I don't know either. I would need to look it up.
So somebody posted an article on Reddit a couple weeks ago where somebody was talking about his company tasking him with figuring out a sales plan for BQ phones in Russia. I don't know what the accuracy is of that, or how definite a thing that is, but there are rumors out there, is all I'll say. I'll spread some rumors that it might be coming to Russia soon. But again, that's not official. That's just something I read on Reddit.
Okay. Another question from Chloe Wolfigo. What's it like knowing lots of people are carrying and making calls on Ubuntu? Yeah. Here I would like to quote Michael Vogt. He's been one of the original gangsters in Ubuntu, and he's been working on apps and everything package related for a very long time. And like when you're working on Ubuntu every single day, you look at bug reports here, you need to fix there, something is complicated, here's a long discussion about this, and you read emails, reply to emails, write a fix, and that's what you do all day. And sometimes you find out about a big bank having, I don't know, 50,000 Ubuntu machines running, and you realize that the update you're just uploading to the archive is going to affect all these people. And if you do something wrong, stuff might break for them. So sometimes I think it can be a bit scary knowing that your code and what we as a community are doing is affecting so many people every day. So yeah, but scary is just one part of it. It obviously feels great to know that so many people want free software and get it in the form of Ubuntu. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Right. So I'm going to paraphrase George Castro, talking about server, not phones, but the same general idea. He was telling me that, one time he was feeling kind of down about, the constant struggle to get Ubuntu out there and promote it. And then he sat in on a talk by somebody from Netflix talking about how they use Ubuntu for, all of their servers that provide streaming. And remembering that there was an article that said something like 1/5 of all the traffic on the internet is from Netflix. And realizing that at least 1/5 of all the traffic on the internet is running on Ubuntu because of, the people who have contributed to Ubuntu. And that's, just an incredible feeling, knowing that, we're all part of this. So to a lesser extent to the phone, you get the same feeling, I'm part of something that's changing the world and the way people are going to interact with their technology. What gives me a really good feeling is seeing companies like BQ and Meizu promoting and highlighting these core apps that were not even written by Canonical. They were written by community people. And now those are all over their, marketing material, highlighting the looks of these apps and how well they work. Meizu's been sharing videos made by community people showing off the MX4 phones that they got early access to. So it's really cool watching people that don't work for Canonical and don't work for Meizu, but being such an integral part of getting these phones out there and making them a success and letting people know about them too. It's been a fun ride. It's been a really fun.
Yeah, especially if you remember those original gangster days where plugging a USB key into your laptop and having it show up on the desktop was a real highlight.
Yeah, I remember when getting your wireless card working at all was a real highlight.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, we've come a long way. And the fact that we've already got 2 manufacturers shipping phones, and we've already got 2 phones, almost 3 phones on the market right now, and at least 1 more on the schedule to come out. It took us so long to get hardware companies shipping Ubuntu on desktops. We had ones that were dedicated to Ubuntu and Linux, where we weren't having to compete with Windows on their hardware. Companies like System 76 and Zareason, who have been great and vital to our success on the desktop. but trying to get someone like Dell or HP to do it, we don't have to just say Ubuntu is good. We have to say you should ship hardware with this instead of the same hardware with Windows. So it was a much harder sell there. And the fact that we've already got 2 companies doing it for phone is a wonderful surprise to me. That happened a lot faster than anything else has in the past. All right. Chloe Wolfie Girl asks, with the idea of IM instant messaging plugins for things like Kik and WhatsApp, what will happen to Telegram? So the Telegram app that we have right now is using a backend called, I think it's Qt Telegram or libQ Telegram, something like that, which is a standalone implementation of the Telegram protocol. For the new instant messaging plugins, my understanding is that they're going to use the telepathy framework. So we're not going to be able to just simply, switch the Telegram app over to this new framework once it lands. We're going to have to create a telepathy plugin for Telegram or reuse one if there's already one in existence and integrate that with the app front end. I would hope that eventually, sooner or later, Telegram will get moved to use that framework too. But since it already works as it is, and you get things like push notifications already that work really well, that may not be a high priority right off the bat.
Okay. Omnomnom asked, what are the Convergent apps that run on all Ubuntu devices on a phone, desktop, tablet? So, they do run on every single device. It's just the question how much in terms of convergence features they add. For example, if you have a bigger screen size, you probably want to show other content or more content and organize the content in a different way. And I think the majority of core apps are actually doing this already.
Yeah, I think the core apps developers started a little while ago working on convergent functionality and convergent designs. And that's something that they're getting more design input on this cycle as well. As for third-party apps, I know that some do and some don't. And some that do only have, to a certain extent. Once we have usable, testable desktop images that are based on Unity 8, people will be able to test that out a little bit more and test their apps in that environment. And then I think we'll see a lot more work going on there.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about convergence and how it works, I would suggest you have a look at developer Ubuntu.com. It was always important just to highlight how you can make use of these features. And also what we had in the app contest we were doing, we always were talking about convergence. So yeah,
and if you're using the Ubuntu UI toolkit and things like grid units already, that makes it just that much easier for your app to converge. So grid units and conditional layouts are the 2 big things for app developers to pay attention to as they develop their apps.
Cool.
All right, Omnom again asks, are there any home routers that are Snappy core based?
Other than all.
That would be a really good use case for Snappy, though.
Absolutely.
Especially being able to just update your router to get the latest version of, the kernel and any other packages with all their security fixes and stuff.
Yeah, there was talk of some other network equipment which already makes use of Snappy Core, but routers I don't know of.
Yeah, and I know there's like switches and stuff from Dell that are enterprise data center hardware that's running it. But for consumer home users, I haven't heard of anything currently that does. I don't know even because I think we still require ARM v7 or higher hardware. So I don't know what home routers have the right hardware to actually run this yet.
I don't think so. I think a lot of them. I was looking at a few for the what's it called again? The OpenWRT project was looking through their list, and there's lots ARMv5 and MIPS and lots of architectures we don't support in Ubuntu.
I think Intel came out with we were calling it a IoT gateway device. I don't know if it's got router functionality in it also or not, but I think that was aimed at consumer market, not enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't heard of it yet. At least didn't read about it.
So there are a lot of devices that are coming out now that are based on Snappy. It's been really something that it seems everybody's been wanting and waiting for and hasn't existed yet. So we're getting a lot of very fast uptake on that. It would not surprise me at all if we start seeing some of the slightly higher end home routers start to use it in the near future.
Yeah. Question from Daniel BE. Will there be a possibility to either install third-party click packages by simply clicking them, like the option allow installation from third-party in Android?
So you can do that from the command line right now.
Right.
The concern there is that third-party apps that you get from elsewhere, you don't know how safe they are to run. So apps from the Ubuntu store are limited as to what they can do without user permissions. So they can't access all of your data, send it all over the internet or track what you're doing while you're using your flashlight app, which is a problem that Android has. And that's guaranteed through the Ubuntu store. If you sideload apps from random third parties, you don't get that guarantee. So even though it is technically possible, you're going to want to be careful doing that.
Yep. That's one.
Right. Strumflet says the Ubuntu phone asks for permissions to access the GPS, contact details, etc., but does not limit access to remote network services. You aren't informed that an app has the networking security profile enabled, and you are not informed when an app tries to access the network. Will that change at some point? So this was a conscious decision that was made kind of early on. And the reason for that is that most phone apps really need network. It's an essential part to most of them. It would be really annoying to pop that up, for 90% of apps. And as soon as they get any kind of network access, we can't really lock down what kind of services they contact. So the decision was made for the balance between security and usability to just allow networking. That with the other stuff being locked down, there's only so much that it can do. The fact that it's suspended in the background, it can't access your contacts or your personal files. There's only so much bad it can do, and that was not enough to outweigh the usability of not asking the user for this permission every time it pops up. So I don't see that changing at any point. Like I said, there was a lot of discussion that led up to this decision. It was not made lightly, and I think so far it's shown to be a good decision.
Yeah. Okay. Chloe Wolfiger asks, with Android manufacturers like Sony, Samsung, etc., make first-party apps which you can't uninstall, will this continue to be an issue with Ubuntu Touch?
So as far as I know, you can uninstall anything that comes pre-installed on the phone. If it is pre-installed, it's going to be in the read-only image. So even if you uninstall it so it doesn't show up for you, it's still going to technically be on the phone. So when you do a factory reset, it comes back. But if you uninstall it, it won't show up in your list of apps anymore.
Yeah,
And as far as I know, there's no plans to change that, and nobody's pushed us to change that so that you can't uninstall things. The only thing you can't uninstall right now is the apps scope. I think that's the only one that we're going to prevent you from removing, because that's pretty much going to make it impossible to use your phone.
Yeah. Here's another one. What are some plans to make Ubuntu Touch more personal and customizable?
So one thing I want to bring up that's just recently landed and we're updating documentation for is changes to the way aggregating scopes work. The way they used to work, you would write an aggregating scope, and the developer of that aggregating scope would pick which child scopes it's going to use. So the today scope and the news scope, they had coded into them what sources they would use. But that's changed now. We've introduced something called keywords for scopes, where any third-party scope can act as a source for a given keyword. So if you want to provide a news website that feeds into the news scope, you can do that. You don't need the aggregating scope author to know about your scope and hard code that in anymore. So users now can install these third-party scopes to customize the today scope, the news scope, the photos scope, enhance them, switch around which sources they want to display and what they don't. So I think that's really going to cause a huge explosion of the number of scopes that we have, and the amount of customization that you can do with them.
Yeah, and I don't know what the exact plans are, but themes and custom ringtones and that kind of stuff is also on the list.
Yeah, I know theming work is happening right now.
Yeah, you can.
I don't know when that's scheduled to land, but that's always been in the plans and it's being worked on.
You can already use it very easily within your apps. There was a blog post from Jombor on the developer blog, but themes for the entire experience still work in progress.
All right, Chloe again asks, when will we get music controls in the indicator menu? When will you be able to use your phone, mic, and camera in the web browser? So the music controls, they actually landed in the daily images a little while ago and then were removed because they weren't working yet. So I think the UI code is there. It's just wiring everything up in the background now. So that should be coming soon, I hope. As far as using the microphone and the camera in the web browser, I'm not sure what the blocking parts of that are. I do know that they're working on integrating the browser with the Media Hub for video playback. And I don't know if that's going to make it easier to get the microphone and the camera working, or if there is some other limitation on that.
Yeah, no idea either. Okay, here's a question from MJ. The phone is generally good. However, it lacks some simple yet essential functions like the identification of telephone numbers on websites and emails. Usually on other phones, when you tap these numbers, the dialer is launched automatically. Will we have this in the foreseeable future?
Technically, we do. Like you can have a clickable link that will open the dialer to dial a number. I think the messaging app does this.
Yep.
And the Telegram app does this. So really it's a question of getting the apps to do it. So for emails, if you're using Deco, the native email client, they would have to parse email text, look for something that looks like a phone number, and convert that to a clickable link. And the browser would have to do the same thing. It's a little bit more difficult for those because they don't generally, parse and modify that kind of content. So I don't know when or if that's coming to the browser and Deco, but all the background stuff, all the system level stuff that's needed to make that work is already there and already works.
Yeah, if there's no bug report for it, make sure you file it. But I'm sure it's somebody else thought about before already.
All right, S/ says, what brand will produce converged phone? BQ, Meizu, or other? Have we announced who that's going to be yet?
I don't know.
I don't either.
It's going to be converged devices.
Yeah, there's a converged device coming. We're not sure exactly when, although I think Mark said before the end of the year. So just keep an eye out for new announcements on that. We're only halfway through the year now. All right, Daniel BE says, there was talk at UDS about developers getting credits for a cloud for testing Juju charms. Do you have any news concerning this? So George Castro or Marco Ceppi would be the ones to ask this.
I'll ping the two about it.
You could always join #Juju on Freenode and ask them there. I still think it would be a great idea, so hopefully they will get that going. All right, Chris Baum says, are there plans to include alternative printer drivers in the next release? My problem is often it's very hard to get the right drivers, and often I go download a big bunch of packages and it takes hours to get printers running. So it seems that you either have a really good experience or a really bad experience with printers in Ubuntu now. Some manufacturers, some brands, you plug them in and they're automatically recognized and working. I think HP is really good about that. Some others, it's really hard because they don't make their drivers available and you have to go find, if you're lucky, you'll find a Linux tarball or zip file that contains them, and if you're not lucky, you'll find a Windows one that you have to extract and find the printer information file that you need. I don't know of any plans on that end, but if there are plans, I wouldn't know about them anyway, just because I haven't been involved in the printer setup or that plumbing level of stuff. So if you join #Ubuntu Desktop, Ubuntu-Desktop, the people in there would be the ones who would be able to help you most with that, I think.
Yeah. Generally, if you either bring it up there or on the Ubuntu Desktop mailing list or Ubuntu Develop Discuss, there's Till Kampeter. He's basically like the overlord of printing and scanning. Like he knows every single printer on the planet. And if there are printers and we can ship them, he's going to make sure that everything works. So yeah. Just bring it up there. Quick note from Popey. He said, yes, we announced that BQ are making the converged device, and MJ also posted a link to an article on OMG Ubuntu. So there you go. Converged devices out in Q4 this year.
All right. MJ says, at the moment, Facebook photo uploads are not working at all. Also, why are we only limited to sharing one photo on Facebook? So I have noticed that if you go through the Facebook web app, that it doesn't work. And it's weird because it's gone back and forth a few times where it would work and where it would pop up saying that it's not supported. So I don't know what's going on the Facebook side that's causing this. It has worked fine in the past. I don't know why it's being blocked now. We do have the QML helper component that the Facebook web app uses. So if you are in the gallery and you say to share an image, you can share it to Facebook and it'll go through that component. And as far as I know, that works. But you are still limited to doing it just one at a time, which is not ideal. But given the amount of support that we have from Facebook on that, I think that's the best that we have right now.
Yeah, I also have a quick update from George. I asked him about the getting credits for the cloud for testing Juju charms. He said that a Juju bug was preventing this, but it'll be fixed in Juju 1.25. which should be mid-July. So there you go. If you have any more questions, just mail george@ubuntu.com. Yeah.
All right. Chloe Wolfie Girl asks, when will we see scopes like Nearby and Photos and News in the store? I'm really glad I have the Today scope. So I thought those were in the store. I'll have to double check again. Some of them may have been in progress getting into the store and got sidetracked to implement the new keywords feature in them. But I'll double check with the authors of those and see what's going on with that.
Cool. Okay, and another one. My mom's phone's an Android phone. It looks like a complete mess with apps all over the place, and she never cleans the home screens. What's the plan with Ubuntu to make it look neat, even when users are lazy and unorganized?
So that one of the design goals of scopes was to make it look nice all the time and to make it easy for developers to get their content on the home screens in a way that looks nice. And I guess the side effect of that is that, users, it's always going to look nice no matter what they do. So your mom will be able to enable and disable sources for the various scopes. But the actual display of them and making sure that looks nice is going to be handled by Unity and the Dash. So it should always look the same no matter what.
Yeah, I know from talking to design folks or folks who do the user testing that discoverability is super, super important. So, I mean, you will all remember moments in time where somebody said, okay, I downloaded it somewhere, I can't find it anymore. Like that kind of stuff, it just shouldn't happen. Like if you have the app installed, you should find it very easily, and there shouldn't be no ambiguity about where it might have gone.
Right. So my general use case is the apps that I'm going to use 90% of the time are always pinned to my launcher. And for the 10% that are not, I just go and I start searching in the app scope because that's faster than scrolling.
Yeah.
All right, and Popey has updated us again. He's our information source this time. This QA, it seems. He says that the Today scope is in the store, but Nearby and others are not. So yeah, I'll check and see what's going on with that and the reasons why they're not.
Excellent.
All right, Omnomnom asks, can you Reddit app work with Hacker News? Is it possible to write a backend for Hacker News? The Hacker News app in the store is kind of ... not so good. I don't know what API it uses. So I wrote the uReddit app, and I don't have any plans to support Hacker News with it. It would be nice to have a dedicated Hacker News app, I think. I think that would be better. If they happen to use the same API, then it would be easy enough. But I don't think that they do. Now, uReddit is BSD licensed, so if anybody wants to make a Hacker News app that works similarly, feel free to fork the project and rip out there's a QReddit JavaScript backend that I actually got from the Karma Machine app. So if you want to rip that out and replace it with something that works with Hacker News, depending on functionality overlap, that might be easy enough to do.
Cool. And probably the last question from Chloe Wolfie Girl. I like the music scope on albums, but automatically starts with artists. Would it be possible for users to choose where the scope starts automatically?
There is work I have heard to make it possible to reorder categories in aggregating scopes. Whether or not the music scope is going to work like that, I don't know. But the actual functionality from the Dash level is being worked on to do that.
Yeah, maybe just ask the question on the Ubuntu phone mailing list.
Yeah, it should be possible in the near future to do. It may require changes to the music scope to do that, but the underlying stuff should be landing soon. All right, and with that, we are just about out of time. So once again, follow us on Twitter at Ubuntu On Air. Follow us on YouTube, also Ubuntu On Air, and you can go back and rewatch this and any previous recordings on this channel. They're on YouTube. And come back next week, same time, same place, and there will be another Q&A with somebody else from the Ubuntu community team other than Daniel and I. But yeah, come back for that. Any questions that you didn't get answered today, bring them next week and get them answered then.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, and have a great day. See you.
Bye.